So listen, if you still have a slow learner experience and you're even thinking about looking at alternatives, you don't have to. Stick around with me for a couple minutes and I'll show you how to make your current setup awesome and super fast. And we can do that by just upgrading to the latest version of Lerna, which comes with caching, with fast task parallelization and execution, and even being able to remotely distribute your cache. So all the features you would want to have from a modern solution. And upgrading is pretty easy. So let's have a look. So I picked a random repo from GitHub, and this one is actually pretty old because it's still using Lerna version 3. So if we run the tests here, you can see the usual Lerna output, and 3 packages here got executed. And obviously if we rerun the tests, it would just rerun the entire computation again. So that's because Lerna didn't know about the concept of caching. Now let's have a look how we can add all those nice features, because this is a simple repo, but in a larger repo, things can get pretty slow. And upgrading is actually super easy. We just need to increase the current Lerna version in our package.json. So let me do that and add here Lerna add latest. We still want to have it as a dev dependency and install it at the root of our current setup here. So now we got the latest version here of Lerna. And one thing that we notice is if I rerun those tests, we already get a different command line output. And the reason here is that the current version of Lerna uses NX underneath as its task runner. And that comes with a new improved terminal output, which gives us a nice overview of what tests have been run. Now, one thing we might want to configure though is caching. That's not enabled by default on our newly migrated workspace because it might highly depend on the structure and scripts that you have in your package.json. So there's good news though. You can just run a command to take care of configuring that. You just run Lerna add caching, and I will ask you a couple of questions. First of all, which scripts need to be run in the deterministic order? So usually build scripts are those types that need to run in that order. Tests can usually run independently and in parallel. Now, what scripts do we want to have cacheable? So definitely the build one, probably not the start one because that's used for development to launch the start server, dev server. The tests for sure. What about the output of our build scripts? Well, in our case, it is here the build folder here, and Lerna has good defaults to understand where those outputs are, and it already handles most of those common build and dist folders for you. But you could totally here specify like build as your output folder. Finally, the test one doesn't have an output, so we just leave it blank. And with that, we get a new NX.json produced, which is a small configuration file that tells Lerna about cacheable operations. It tells about the topological scripts, so those that need to be run in a certain order, in this case, our build script. It also has here the outputs defined. So with that, caching should work. We can just try it out and run Lerna run test again. Now the first round, it will run it just as normal, but if I rerun it, you can see it's blazingly fast because all got just output from the cache. It actually took just 6 milliseconds. So with that, we have now a fast, modern Lerna experience. Definitely go to lerna.js.org to do a brand new website and new documentation to check out some more interesting and cool features. See you in the next one.